In this video, we're learning lesson 12.5, and it's called Distance in the Coordinate Plane. Okay, our objective, make sure you have this written down, is it says, I will use the Pythagorean theorem to find the distance between 2 points. Okay, distance, circle the word distance and write the word length, because that's what distance is. It's like the length between something, 2 points. Okay? Our essential question is, how can you use the Pythagorean theorem to find the distance between 2 points? Remember, the essential question always goes along with our objective. Okay, let's look at example number 1. What is the distance between, here's point A, and they give you the ordered pair, the coordinate at A is at -2, -3, and point B, 4, -1. Okay, well, the first thing we need to do is we have to graph those points to try to figure out the distance between them. So let's first label point A. Point A is at -2, -3. So we start at the origin, and you go to the left 2 because it's -2, and then down 3, 1, 2, 3, because it's -3. Let's plot that point, and that is point A. That's what they're telling us. And then let's write the coordinates of it. Okay? So the first thing we do, right, we have a coordinate plane. Let's plot the points. They gave us the coordinates of them. And then point B. Sorry, guys. That would happen. Okay, we're back. Point B is 4, -1. Okay, so here started the origin. We're going to plot this coordinate. You go over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's -1, so we go down 1. Let's plot that point. That is point B at 4, -1. Okay? So we plotted those 2 points, and we need to find the distance between them. Like we said, distance is like length. All right? So let's draw a line. Take your straight edge between the 2 points because we want to find the distance between them. Okay? Now, that would be difficult to just find the distance between these 2 points because if you notice, they don't really line up with any of the grid lines. It would be hard to count the distance. You can't really count the boxes on the grid lines because they don't line up with them. So what we can do is we can create a triangle, a right triangle, to connect these 2 points, okay? So my right triangle, let me show you what I mean by that. You might be wondering. If we go up like this, okay, and then straight up and then straight to the right, right, and we're lining up our line with the actual grid lines. Here is our right triangle. We just made a right triangle connecting the 2 points that we need, A and B, the 2 points that we need to find the distance between. So now that we figured out a right triangle to connect the 2 points A and B, what we can do is now we can use the Pythagorean theorem to find the distance, because the Pythagorean theorem has to do with the lengths of a right triangle, and we have a right triangle, and distance is the same thing as length. So now let's label, this is a leg, this side. This side is also a leg, right? Because the 2 sides that are adjacent or touching the right angle are legs. And then this side, right, the distance between A and B is your hypotenuse side. Okay? All right, so we can label this side as A, this side is B, and then this side of the triangle is C. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is we have to figure out, well, how long is this side of the triangle? How long is our side A? Well, the good news is the reason we draw a right triangle is so that it can line up with the grid line, so we can easily count the number of units that the side of the triangle is. So we'll start here, and this side of the triangle, well, it's 1, 2 units on the grid lines. So this side is 2 units long. Okay. Now let's count this side of the triangle, the units. It goes over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This side of the triangle is 6 units long. Okay? And like we said here, we don't know how long this line is. It's impossible to count it because it doesn't line up with the grid lines. Okay? But we can now figure out what side C is because we have the length of the two legs. We have the length of side A and we have the length of side B because we counted the units. So now we can use the Pythagorean theorem, right? Because we're dealing with a right triangle and figuring out the lengths because distance is the same thing as the lengths. We're trying to find the distance between these 2 points, A and B. So now let's plug in A squared. Well, we figured out that the side A is 2, so it's 2 squared plus side B was, we said was 6 units long on the grid lines, so it's 6 squared, and then equals C squared. We don't know what C is. We're trying to figure that out. Okay, so now we can evaluate it. 2 squared is 4, plus 6 squared is 36. Okay, notice once I square my number, I don't have the square anymore. Right, it's not 4 squared because it's 2 squared, which is 4. There's no need, we get rid of the square. Okay, and then it equals C squared. Okay, now remember we have two numbers, so let's combine them. 4 plus 36 is 40 equals C squared. Okay, and then our last step, as usual, to undo that square, we want to get C by itself to figure out the side length. So to undo a square, we take the square root to cancel it out. Whatever you do to the one side, you have to do the other side. Okay. Here is where we take our calculator and let's plug in the square root of 40 and it equals, let's round to the nearest tenth, 6.3. So over here, 6.3 equals C. Okay, which is basically telling us, let's go back to the original question, what is the distance between point A and point B? And they gave the coordinates. This distance between point A and point B is about, the reason we say about is because we rounded this. It's not exact. When you round a number, right, we rounded this number to the nearest tenths place. That's when you use the word about. So the distance between point A and point B is about 6.3 units. Okay, because it's 6.3 units on the coordinate plane. Okay, now that you have copied all of the notes for example number 1, let's try the Got It number 1 before watching the video.